Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to First Church, First Center, Religious Science here in New York City. This is our self-healing class based upon You Can Heal Your Life, the book which I'm holding, by Louise. I want to welcome you. Thank you, Celia, for the opening. And let's start with an affirmative. Well, we have one from Celia. I have a little poem here which I read, and it's about self-healing. It says, I am my own sun, I am my own light, in my heart I find my might. I'm worthy, I'm enough, I'm deserving of love. I embrace my flaws, my scars, my pain, and I release the need for others' gain. I'm free to be, to shine, to grow. My self-love is the only way to glow. I nurture my soul with kindness and care, and I see myself as precious and rare. I give myself grace, I forgive myself. I know that self-love is the only wealth. For in this world that's full of hate, self-love is the antidote. It is the gate to a life that's filled with peace and joy. My self-love is my ultimate employ. So I choose to love myself each day in every single word and way. For in this love I find my strength, and in this love I find my strength. I don't know who wrote that poem. I think it's anonymous, but I appreciate it. I was going over multiple lessons, was trying to find a new approach. We're always doing what Louise would say, we're taking the positive approach. We're learning and we're teaching and we're presenting what we call the affirmative approach, the positive approach. And I'll tie it in for you a little bit. Louise Hay was a student of this center here in New York, and what we teach is the science of mind. We're a metaphysical group, and so we're learning to live life affirmatively, and it's no small thing. It's a big deal for many people because the world as we know it is full of negativity, and as you've heard me say in different weeks, different times, I'm not saying that people who are here on this call necessarily, but I'll say people in the world are very much caught up in this thing called action and reaction. I think I spoke about it in another lesson this week. It seems like everybody's reacting to everybody else. And what we're trying to have people here consider is the idea that you have power. You have power to do it in a different way, so you're not in reaction to everybody all the time. So in order for you to wield that power, to use that power, which is yours, you have to do a few things. First of all, you have to know that you have power. Ernest Holmes, who was the founder, who taught Louise Hay and myself and most of you indirectly, said that there's power for good in the universe, greater than you, of which you are a part, and you can use it. That's simple enough. But it's fairly deep. There's power. He's saying there's one power in the universe. He's not teaching duality. A lot of people get confused with that because they think there's a power for evil, there's a force for darkness, there's this or that. And Dr. Holmes is very clear when he says there's one energy, there's one power in the universe. And the great news that we have is you come into this teaching is you wake up and realize, oh my goodness, it's in me. This power is in me, and it's operating through me, in me, operating through me. So we wake up and we realize, okay, I'm one with this power, and this power that's in me is in you, and it's in everyone on this call. This spirit of good that's in me is in you, and it's on everyone in this call. This spirit of good, this God, is in me, you, and everyone in the world, everywhere, and all the time. So very simply stated, there's an old saying, there's not a spot where God is not. And if you don't like the word God, because it's not in vogue these days, we can say we are part of this energy, this higher power, this inner power. We know that it resides within. It's the thing that animates us. And we know also that it is the very same stuff. It is the aliveness that's in all people in all places. So as we're learning about metaphysics, we spoon feed it, in very, very gentle ways every week. But you start with that first step of affirmative prayer, which is recognition. We're recognizing that there's one power, one loving energy. Deepak Chopra would say, one unitary field, and out of it is everything. There's not a spot where God is not. So if you wake up and you realize that I am one with this, and you realize your word is your wand, meaning whatever you're saying and whatever you're thinking all day and all week is really the thing that's creating your life. You're speaking your life right into existence by virtue of your thoughts. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions. What lives on the inside of each and every one of us is playing on the outside. And you're going to think, oh my goodness, so what is he saying? What I'm talking about is I'm talking about consciousness. So when you really learn to love yourself, what you're doing is you're lifting yourself up. You're elevating your consciousness because you're getting out of what we call the rat race. That whole phenomenon is called many things. The rat race. We live in New York City. You could just go not too many blocks away and be in Times Square, and there's life. It's crazy, right? It's wonderful too. And everybody's just, buzzing along and all that. And this is life. Life is teeming everywhere. When you come into a teaching like this and you learn how to slow it down a little bit, and there's sayings that we use, when you learn to be still and calm yourself and know that you are God. And I know that sounds outrageous. It sounded outrageous to me the first time I heard it. It seems like 100 years ago, but be still and know that you are God. So what we're talking about here is what's been called the best kept secret of the ages, because everybody's looking for, a guru, somewhere outside of them. I used to go on pilgrimages and retreats and vision quests and every other thing. And what you come to do eventually if you're studying metaphysics is you realize this presence, this power is in the person sitting right next to you. It's the person in front of you. You're hearing it as you're listening to your iPod. Whatever is coming to you, whatever energy, whatever message, everything's coming to you. This presence is in all things, everywhere. And the Great Awakening is the realization that you are one with it. The language we use here is that you are an individualization of this presence. The power that it has, you have. Said another way, you are sitting or standing on holy ground. When we say to you week after week, this is a spiritual journey, we're talking about an inner journey, the one that goes from here to here. It's a journey, as we often say, that's without a distance, to a place you don't live at very much. And not, this isn't to put anybody down. It's just that most of us are not living from that God awareness. Most of us are not living from an empowered place. Most of the world. Those of you who come into this teaching and who are really truly New Thought students, you're very much involved in the practice. You're practicing learning to love yourself. You're practicing being mindful of your conversation. And by that I mean the negative chatter that goes on, which we call the committee. All the stuff that you learn from, mom and dad and the whole tribe behind me, all that stuff, if you're in a new moment, which hopefully we are, we're willing to let it go. We're willing to trade in the lesser ideas for the greater. Some people are not. Some people really are trying to hang on to yesterday. I've had people in this center since I got here. They would love it if I would be preaching Stuart Grayson, who's been dead many, many years. And I'm here to say if Stuart Grayson were here today, he wouldn't be teaching Stuart Grayson. I mean, he would be different. He would have evolved. Life is evolving. Everything is evolving. Part of this lesson tonight is to talk about change. Change is something that you got to get really good with. I remember studying philosophy, Greek philosophy in particular. It was Heraclitus, and he said, you can't step into the same river twice. And people have been writing essays about that statement for, I don't know, probably a century or longer. And the thing is, you are always different. The river is always different. Everything's always changing. And people don't like change, but change is part of what's happening. And guess who's changing? You're changing. I'm changing. Our teaching is changing and evolving. Churches and boxes and buildings are on their way out. Eventually, it's going to be communities and virtual communities, and we'll still have the teaching, but it will evolve. Everything is evolving and changing. I was doing a presentation for you all last year, which we were talking about the human doubling curve and how all the knowledge in the universe is doubled every few days. Some people say every day. And in the past few months, I've been using artificial intelligence, and I'm astonished. I think, it's the intelligence that is at our disposal is unthinkable. Just yesterday, I was thinking of a recipe my mother used to make that was in a gourmet magazine so many years, and I'm asking artificial intelligence, can I find this? And 2 seconds later, the whole thing is there. I couldn't find that on Google if I Googled it for 100 years. If I need help, with synthesizing information, it's all there for me. It's mind-boggling. And are we ready for all the things that are happening? And as religious scientists, we're here to say yes to life and to embrace change. So one of my questions for you is, are you happy? Are you embracing change? Do you look forward to things? Do you look forward to life and the changes it presents you day by day? When I was preparing this lesson earlier today, I was reminded of a lesson I did in 2011. I had a group in Miami at the time, I think it was, and I was trying to present the ideas, however you show up, you were born this way. And I was trying to get the audience to get to the point where to love yourself. And at the time I pulled up a song of Lady Gaga's that had just come up, and it was entitled Born This Way. I'm sure many of you have heard it. Our younger audience certainly knows the lyrics well. And I'll share some of them now. The lyrics go, Mama told me when I was young that we're all born superstars. And I thought, that's what we teach every week here, every Thursday, that you are one with the one. You are a superstar. And she goes on in the lyric to say, there is nothing wrong with loving who you are. She said, because you were made perfect. Babe, she said. So listen up, child, and you'll go far, and listen to what I say. You're beautiful, and you say, I'm beautiful in my own way, because God makes no mistakes. You're on the right track, baby. You were born that way. And it goes on to say, don't hide yourself in regret. Just love yourself, and you're all set. So that's what we're teaching every Thursday, is to love, accept, and approve of yourself, exactly as you are. You might say, but I'm not good enough. This is wrong and that's wrong, and I'm not this and I'm not that. And I'm going to say to you straight up, get rid of all the nots, N-O-T-S. They told me years ago that's a virus word. Wherever you use it, it's Start learning to make affirmative statements. Religious scientists, practitioners say, I know, I affirm, I intend. We don't negate ourselves. You're on the right track when you're starting to love yourself, accept yourself, and be open to change, and you begin to trust life. And in terms of all that, you're going to start to have, as you love yourself, you're going to have more dominion over your own life. And as Gaga would say in that song, don't be a drag on life. Don't be a drag. And then she would suggest in her own way, be a queen or be a king. Have dominion over your own life. And know that you're beautiful in your own way, because the universe doesn't make any mistakes. You're on the right track, she said. You were born this way. The fact is that you were born magnificent beyond your ability to even understand. As a spiritual being, you're the heir to the kingdom. You know, we talk about the kingdom. We talk about the kingdom of God or of good being at hand. You have the ability to step out of any kind of life you're living presently and be in a new moment with your superpowers, which means you have the ability to vision a great life, and you have the ability to step into a greater world of peace and happiness and joy and success. And the only thing that ever stops us from moving forward towards those greater experiences is ourself. We don't want to define ourselves by anything. We want to rejoice in who we are and what we are. Love, accept, and approve of ourselves exactly as we are. You know, you were born this way. You were born whole, complete, and perfect. I could go on with the lyrics, but I'm sure you're all getting the idea. So that was 2011. It's still a great message. So today I'm talking a little bit about change, as you know, and loving ourselves more and more through change. I had a little quiz I prepared for us just to see how good we are with self-love and change. When we're faced with a difficult situation, the question is, how are we? Do we tend to focus and be negative? Like, oh, geez, damn, what's going on here? When change is upon you, you have a difficult situation in front of you, how do you handle it? Are you negative or are you positive? You don't have to answer that for anybody other than yourselves. Next question. Is your inner chatter, you know, the creative chatter, is it negative? Or is it positive? I was watching Elon Musk not long ago, and he made the point, he thought that most people are programmed towards negativity. And I thought, oh, darn, I know a lot of people are programmed towards negativity, but he said, no, most people are. He says it's kind of part of the survival of the fittest. You know, you're scared and you're looking out for who's going to gobble you up and stuff. But we're at a point now where we don't have to do it that way. You know, we're not out there in the fields and the caves and stuff like this. What is your inner dialogue like? Is it positive? Or is it critical? Are you using the word should a whole lot? You know that was Louise's least favorite word in the English language, because she says it's most often when you're using it, you're being critical of yourself or others. Next question, how often do you find yourself complaining, criticizing? And then she asked the next question, what can you do to stop your pattern? What can you do at least to slow it down? And since we're all about change here, the whole world is evolving before our eyes, this generation. You're going to live to see great and amazing things in your own lifetime. And this is something to be excited about, you know? All that being said, you tend to dwell on the past and wish it were like it used to be. Or do you dwell on your failures or mistakes? Are you unable to let it all go and just rejoice and think, oh my God, look, I've learned so much. I've made a whole bunch of mistakes, but I've learned so much, and it's so exciting. So do you dwell on the past with remorse, Or do you look at it and think, oh my goodness, what I learned through all of that? And do you have a smile on your face, or is there a sadness? These are just questions, again, for you to reflect. If you're going round and round with the same old story, though, I can promise you it's not helpful. If you can remember the story in such a way that you can see how you've grown, then it's good, because it's building you up. Next question. How do you respond to challenges or what some people call setbacks, where you've experienced the word no, which people don't usually like to hear, or rejection? How do you respond when the door is closed? Are you cool with it? Are you good with it? And you think, okay, well, I'm one step closer to a yes. I used to do sales, and they say every time someone says no to you, it's one step closer to the yes. How do you respond to that? Do you see these things as opportunities for growth, or as proof that you can't do it, you won't be able to do it, you'll never be able to do it? How do you respond to challenges or setbacks? I have a couple more questions. Are you able to express gratitude and appreciate the positive things in your life? See, that's a real religious scientist, by the way. Those are the people who are described as unflappable because they're seeing the good no matter what's going on. They're committed to seeing the good, the God and the good and the good and the God, because that's what they're trained to do. And you might think that they're silly, you might think that they're, lost children. But, you look at the way they live their life, they're truly being about what we'll call the Father's business, meaning they're lifting their consciousness up to a much different place. And they're not being involved in the action and reaction and the pain and the blame and the grudges and the animosity. They're just committed to seeing the good. When I was a kid, used to go eat at the Krishna temple, and I'd watch those monks chant all day long. And I remember one of my teachers, I've said this before, he said, well, God, Greg, they're blissed out of their minds because they're chanting the name of God. They're synonyms for the Hare chant. And he said, if you were lifting your consciousness a little bit, you'd be blissful too. So the question is, are you expressing enough gratitude and appreciation in your life? Because gratitude in and of itself is causative. It changes you, and it changes everything. Are you expressing gratitude and appreciation even when it's difficult? Do you make the effort? I've done a few talks. We've done a lot of talks this past couple weeks, and I'm invoking Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac, where Franklin was saying, assume a virtue if you have it not. Become grateful. Start expressing thanks and gratitude. And and you do that often enough, you'll be a changed person. Because what we're trying to get a handle on always is that inner dialogue. If it's critical, if it's self-negating, if it's never optimistic, then we want to change that around. Because as was explained to me when I was learning religious science many, many, many years ago, it's like a teeter-totter. It's the tendency of our thoughts. If they're weighted towards the negative, then my life is going to be fairly negative, and it's going to reflect negative, and I'm going to have a lot of negative experiences. But if that balance shifts towards the positive and self-loving thoughts, miracles will happen. And it's not that they're miraculous truly, it's just it will be a reflection of the tendency and the quality of my thinking. There's two more. Kind of a big one. How do you view yourself? How do you think of yourself in terms of your own self-worth and value as a person? Are you really excited about you? If not, it's time to start getting excited about you. It's time to start loving yourself more. It's time to connect with your self in the mirror. It's time to take a pause with yourself and let yourself know that you're wonderful and cool and how much you appreciate you and what you've been through and what you've learned, because you're a spiritual being and you're here and you're expanding, you're growing, and you're learning the lessons of love. One more. Are you willing to learn from the errors? And are you willing to learn from the errors in such a way you won't condemn yourself for them? I always think, oh my goodness, and really you look back after a few years, we've all learned so much. And the other thing that's wonderful about this teaching is the realization that all these other people that we've been blaming for everything all these years are innocent. We say, no, they're not, Greg, they've done a whole bunch of stuff. I say, yeah, okay, they've done a whole bunch of stuff. But the thing is, like each of us, we've made many mistakes while we have been learning. And one spiritual book used to say, so what? And well, the thing is, we made a lot of mistakes while we were learning. We didn't intend to hurt or be hurt, but we made mistakes. And every other person living on this planet has made a lot of mistakes too. So then enters Louise Hay's famous statement that they're all doing the best they can with the information, the understanding, and the consciousness that they have. So let them off the hook, because as you let them off the hook, I promise you the greatest beneficiary is going to be yourself. If you're one of these folks that's obsessing over things and worried all the time and worried and obsessing, you know that that's a no-win situation. You're on a wheel. They're old tapes going round and round and round, and it just produces like. So you want to find the way to stop that. Stop in the name of love, step off of it, tell yourself no, tell yourself I release it, it doesn't serve me, I release the need for it. That requires some effort. Are you willing to do the work? I know you are, you wouldn't be here, most of you. And we want to start practicing the teaching in the sense you want to keep seeing the good in yourself and others, the best. Let go of critical thoughts and critical anything, and stop thinking in terms of what's wrong and what's missing. And you'll be amazed how, if you keep focusing on seeing what's good, you'll see more good, and you'll find opportunities that you would ever otherwise missed. If you're a chronic worrier, and most people are worried about something, the first thing to know is it's somewhat normal, but it's not productive, okay? And if you're doing it habitually, you're just heading into trouble. I know a lot of people, they call and they tell me they're stuck, they feel stuck, like their life is over, it's too late, they've lost a loved one, they're no longer 25 or 45 or 65, they're getting up there, right? But, what was told to me by a brilliant attorney many years ago, her name was Deborah, she said, the final chapter has not been written. And I smiled when I heard that. She says, wherever you are, she says, look, this is the time. And for all of us, it's later than we think. So these are the good old days, and this is the time to get excited about ourselves, right? There's plenty of time for you to just get yourself on track. And what I've learned is the people who really start to get in this teaching and practice, you might have had 20 years of all kinds of hard lessons, and inside of a few months or a year, the whole thing changes. So your life is important. You're more valuable than you know. It doesn't matter how you were born this way, and you came in whole, complete, and perfect. And everybody is here to learn how to love themselves and shine. So I'm seeing if there's anything else here that is important. I think I've said what I've wanted to say. And the subject is about loving yourself and embracing change, and just keeping that consciousness high.